In the beginning, there was one, and one created the universe. And having made all that mind could create, one sought to animate the universe with spirit. But spirit and one were the same, and spirit already existed and could not be created. So one took fragments of itself and placed each portion within a living thing. And one animated the universe with its own spirit, and individual souls were born and took myriad physical forms. And through these fragments of itself, one experienced the universe it had created and marveled at its work. Souls and one were the same. In the beginning, souls understood and felt their origin and spoke to one and were answered. This was prayer. But as time passed, the souls forgot their source and began to feel separate and alone. They still honored one and prayed to one, but because they had lost the knowledge that they were all one, they fell prey to fears and doubts and felt themselves separate from one. And some souls, seeking power over other souls, created dogmas and rituals, rules and demands, and fostered fear and doubt. They declared that all souls were born in sin, that senses gifted to each form by one must be suppressed and feared. They constructed hell and Satan and spoke of darkness and destruction. Fomenting dread and apprehension, they insisted one was wrathful and full of vengeance and to be feared. Seeking to dominate other souls and still their minds and wills, they claimed that only they knew one, only they could intercede, and only they might formulate those laws which ensured their power over men and nations. They demanded tithes and obedience, and a strange manipulation of the mind which they called faith, and which allowed no individual interpretation. And so the mind was stilled and allowed no participation. And the body was abased, and senses quelled, and joy denied. And souls became afraid, and walked with eyes downcast, and trembled before one. They forgot their origin, and forgot their source, and forgot that they were one. They began to fear one, and feel themselves separate and alone. But from time to time a great soul was born with full awareness of its oneness, and these great souls shared their wisdom and love with all their fellow souls. They tried to show that all were one. They tried. But when they left this world and went back to one, their words were turned and twisted, and the love they spoke of was claimed by groups and sects, who then declared that they alone held the truth, and that all other souls were lost. And because the souls had forgotten that they were one, they believed what they were told, and clung in fear to false words and distortions of what the great souls had taught. And so the world became fragmented, and souls struggled amongst themselves, arguing over the teachings of the great souls, each declaring that one was greater than the other and was the only truth. They formed groups and sects, and the groups and sects began to wage war against each other. In battle, each army insisted that one stood firmly at its side, and that the blood of the enemy was rightly spilled in the defense of one. Their anger grew so strong, they became persuaded that killing another soul who did not share their way was just and fair. That those who chose the words and teachings of one great soul over another, or who practiced prayer in other ways, were wrong, and that one would reward them for such human sacrifices, and would laud them and praise them. But they forgot. that each soul was a fragment of one, and each soul participated in one, and that every soul, wrenched from its body in a pool of blood, returned to one in an ocean of tears, and that one wept with it. Because in the beginning there was one, and one created the universe.